On today's Spotlight, we shine some light on a major geopolitical meeting that happened in the shadows. Another MEE exclusive broke on Tuesday, revealing that Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar met with British Foreign Secretary David Lammy in an unannounced trip to London. This is the first known UK visit by an Israeli minister since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, alleging war crimes and crimes against humanity in the ongoing war on Gaza. It also bridges strained relations between the two governments after two British Labour MPs were denied entry into Israel last week, a move personally condemned by Lammy. Yet despite the many questions this meeting raises, the wider British media has been slow to take up the story, even as UK MPs have spoken out against it. Among several politicians from multiple parties to have commented, Labour MP Zara Sultana retweeted Middle East Eye's story, stating, "Gideon Saar and all Israeli officials complicit in the genocide of Palestinians, you are not welcome in the UK." There is no international arrest warrant out for Gideon Saar, to be clear, but he has publicly defended Israel's aid blockade of Gaza, which is widely condemned as a contravention to international law, including by the UN.
The fact that the first phase of the temporary ceasefire was over. Today we froze all the trucks that entered to Gaza Strip during the last 42 days. We will always be ready to negotiate according to our principles, but I want to emphasize the fact that we fulfilled all our commitments until the very last day, which was yesterday. And the question is, what is going on when you do have negotiations? And our position is that during negotiations, hostages should be released. Due to the fact that the first phase of the temporary ceasefire was over, today we froze all the trucks.
Please welcome Imran Mullah to the Middle East Eye live studio. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
So this is a fast-moving story. What is the latest? What do we know about what Lammy and Saar discussed? Do we know anything?
Well, the Israeli government circulated on Tuesday evening that the two of them discussed ongoing negotiations to release hostages in Gaza and also tensions with Iran. Since then, the Foreign Office has confirmed the visit and the trip and has said that Gideon Saar was on a private trip, which is an interesting way to describe a visit in which he met the British Foreign Secretary, of all people. Now, Gideon Saar, according to some reports, has left the country, but this is completely unconfirmed, so he may still be in the UK right now. And that should give you an indication of the extraordinary level of secrecy that there is around this story.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. How secret exactly is this within government? And if it is so secret, how did you find out about it?
Well, it's incredible that this visit happened when Parliament was in recess, so the MPs aren't actually around. They're essentially on holiday for Easter. And we reported on Tuesday afternoon that Gideon Saar was going to make a trip to the UK this week on the basis of several high-level sources, including some close to the British government. We then reported later that day that Gideon Saar met Lammy, and that was on the basis of the Israeli government putting this out, and Israeli media started circulating it. So we reported it, the national Scottish newspaper also reported it, but no British newspaper, no mainstream British newspaper reported it at all for a full 24 hours until The Guardian finally did so. And I asked the Foreign Office for comment multiple times on Tuesday evening, and they wouldn't say anything on the record.
Yeah, this is curious that you broke this story, and it is not an insignificant story. It does not happen very often that we have an Israeli minister visiting the UK and meeting our Foreign Secretary. To be clear, that has not happened since the ICC arrest warrants came out. Were you surprised that there was not more take-up in the mainstream British media about what could have been quite a significant political story?
Well, it's interesting because this is the foreign minister, a senior member of a government which is on trial at the World Court for genocide and which is currently prosecuting a war in Gaza, visiting the UK on a secret clandestine trip. You'd think that editors everywhere would be jumping up and down in glee at the story. But of course, the secrecy of the trip required that the British media not report on it. So it's easy to see that the British government would prefer that Gideon Saar was sort of bundled in and out before anyone noticed, and that way they could stave off protests or, potential applications for arrest warrants. But that didn't happen because it was obviously reported on. So
Thanks to you.
It's extraordinary that it wasn't picked up. I expected it to be picked up, and that didn't happen. So there was a full 24 hours where if you didn't read essentially Middle East style The National in Britain, you wouldn't have known that this was happening. Because it wasn't in The Guardian, it wasn't in the BBC, it still isn't in the BBC.
Still isn't, yeah.
It's not in the Telegraph, not in the Times, not in the Daily Mail, not in the Sun, and not in the Financial Times either. For most of the British public, this visit by the Israeli foreign minister simply did not happen. That makes it essentially a secret trip. And there still hasn't been a press release from the Foreign Office, which is extraordinary.
And I think a lot of people who rely on the mainstream media would therefore be asking questions about the reliability of this story. How do we really know this happened? But just to reiterate, you heard this from multiple sources, from within the government, as well as it being confirmed by Israeli officials and retrospectively by the Foreign Office. Is that correct?
This is the case. So the Foreign Office has confirmed it. It is on the record now. There's no question or doubt about the story at all. And there's no reasonable explanation for why major British newspapers shouldn't be reporting the story.
Now, while it was not taken up widely by the British press, after you broke the story, it was picked up on by various MPs who criticised it, and also civil society organisations. Some charities, as far as I'm aware, put in a bid to the Attorney General for an arrest warrant for Gideon Saar. What does that mean? On what basis did they apply for that arrest warrant?
So they were asking for the consent of top legal officers in the country to apply for the arrest warrant. And this was on the basis that Gideon Saar... Now, it's important to note that there is no arrest warrant out for Gideon Saar from the International Criminal Court, whereas his boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, is a wanted man. But Gideon Saar has been accused by these legal groups, and this happened yesterday afternoon, of aiding and abetting war crimes, specifically torture. And he's also gone on the record very recently in defending the humanitarian blockade of Gaza. Now, of course, that's collective punishment and it's a war crime. So it's on this basis that these legal groups made the application. Now, I understand it hasn't been granted, so consent has not been given. And in any case, Gideon Saar is likely to be out of the country very soon, if he's not already left.
But those are serious allegations, and it points to the level of controversy surrounding a story that, by and large, went completely under the radar.
I mean, imagine if this was, the Russian foreign minister smuggled into the country for a meeting with David Lammy, our foreign secretary. It would be all over the media. You should expect a story like this. You would expect a story like this to be on the front pages, but it simply wasn't. And that is very telling, I think.
Yeah. And now, before we end the show, I want to ask about another story that you broke, just because we heard it earlier on today's programme. It was about a charity founded by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle that pulled funding from a Muslim organisation on the basis of pro-Palestinian support. Quickly, just remind us about that story and tell us why it caught your eye. What was so interesting about it?
So Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who are in the US, they have a foundation which supports charitable initiatives. One of these was a Muslim Women's Association in Milwaukee. founded by a Palestinian American who wrote a blog post in which she called Israel an apartheid state, and she also advocated for, quote-unquote, the liberation of Palestine, and she used the phrase, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which many interpret as an anti-Zionist statement. On the basis of complaints being made to Prince Harry and Meghan's foundation about these statements, they have cut all ties and withdrawn funding. And they had funded, they'd given them over £40,000 since 2023.
But this sort of flies in the face, I suppose, of a lot of the image that we associate with Harry and Meghan Markle as being quite controversial, to establish politics and standing up for social justice causes. Is that right?
Well, definitely. I think Harry and Meghan have, as they are often known in the British media by their first names, have cultivated an image of being social justice activists. So both of them have accused the royal family of racism. These are very contentious claims that are strongly denied by the royal family and others. They've also, declared their commitment to stamping out racism, and I think that many of their fans who have previously defended them are going to be troubled by these revelations that they appear to be, they have definitely cut ties with a Muslim organisation over pro-Palestine statements. So many will ask, does this mean they're uncomfortable with such statements?
Okay. Thank you, Imran. That's all we have time for today, but it has been great hearing from you firsthand about the story that may not have seen the light of day, was it not for your incredible reporting. So for everyone watching, to keep up with Imran's stories and all our other political news at Middle East Eye, just go to middleeasteye.net. We will post a link to his story in the description below.